I'd like to call the meeting to order as the May 24th special Shelby County Board meeting. I'm sorry, May 27th, for the record straight. If we start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll stand and remove our hats.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Earl Baker. Kenny Barr. Barbara Bennett. Mark Bennett.
Here.
Paul Canday. Brian Kaufman. Dennis Durbin.
Here.
Jesse Durbin. Gary Gervany.
Here.
Rod Height.
Here.
Larry Lenz.
Yes.
Patrick Lyons.
Yes.
Terry Metzger.
Here.
Bobby Mormon.
Present.
Gary Patterson.
Here, and I would request no payment for tonight's meeting.
Derek Piercy.
Here.
John Poe.
Here.
Robert Simpson.
Here.
Jeff Slifer.
Here.
David Switz.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Lynn Williams.
For the record, the resolution, compensation resolution we passed in the last, for 2018 does only specify regularly scheduled meetings and committee meetings, so this would be an unpaid meeting.
For all.
For everybody. I'd like to open the floor now for public body comment. Anybody like to speak on tonight?
I'm Jim
Yes, sir.
Hampton. I'm the one farm, county farm last 33 years. Try to take care of it, keep the weeds mowed, and just try to treat it like my own property. Have other property in the area. Don't really want to grow up the weeds like it already has. I mean, the weeds are going to go to seed. It's going to get worse. Need to do something with it. It needs to be farmed. It's up to you guys, ever how the vote goes, but this needs to be treated different than it has been. For 33 years, I've kept it mowed up and took care of it, and the committee's always complimented me on doing a good job, and this needs to be taken care of better.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know for sure why is this set up as if they want to sell the land or just what they want to do with it?
Tonight's meeting is about leasing the land.
Pardon,
Tonight's meeting is about leasing the land.
okay, instead of renting, you mean?
Right. Rent, lease, it would be one and the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Kurt Matsky. I live in Shelbyville. We're in a residential area, and I have an issue with a neighbor who's trying to put campers in his yard. And so I'd just like to know how I could get on the agenda to bring this up to the board.
Do you live in city limits?
No, I live outside.
County.
I can't really direct. Anybody have a direction on that?
Have you talked to the zoning administrator?
Yeah, I talked to him. He's helped me, and he's told me that there's a meeting on June 7th.
Yeah, that would be the zoning committee,
Okay.
so that's where we would start with that issue.
Okay,
And then eventually it could come to the county board depending on what happened with it.
okay.
If it's
So then I don't have to do anything and just come to the meeting then?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Has this farm ever been put up for bids on the cash rent?
I can't answer that. Anybody on the farm
I
committee
mean,
want
if
to?
he's farmed it for 33 years and it's never been put up for any sorts of bids, I farm across the road and I know I pay a lot more than what Gary said in the paper, what they were getting. But he said they 200 acres draws 30,000. And I don't know, I thought it ought to be up for bids. Moultrie County bids theirs. And they publish all the bids in the paper.
I have a hand up over here.
Sorry. Erica Fernhaber, I would like to be addressed at this point as a taxpaying citizen of Shelby County, not the Shelby County Treasurer. I am asking this board, and specifically Patrick Lyons and Lynn Williams isn't here as my representative, to do the right thing with this farm ground. and do what is legal. I'm also asking this board to reduce the size of the board. Any conversation that I've had is that the county board needs to be reduced in half. You know, I have an emotional tie to this farm ground. I am Retha Cool's niece. Her sister was my grandmother. I grew up hearing many, many stories about the poor farm. Felt like I was a part of the poor farm. Would drive out by the poor farm, have the book. You know, it's been a part of my family. There's emotional things there for me, but I would ask you as the board to put your emotions aside and vote with the law. The law's changed. Things weren't done properly. Things haven't been bid out. Taxes haven't been paid. And I am asking you, the Shelby County Board, to do what is right with the two issues on this agenda this evening. Thank you.
I have another hand over here on this side.
Thank you, Chairman Warren. Martha Bernhaber, sister to Erica, so I'm just going to piggyback or say ditto to what she said about our family, Rita Cool, and the family being very, very involved in the poor farm in the past. Can't remember exactly what meeting it was, how long ago, but this board voted to table this discussion and wait on the opinion of the state Attorney General, to whom an opinion was requested. And I'm extremely frustrated with the fact that you just keep pushing, as opposed to wait for that opinion. My number one ask tonight is wait for that opinion, please. Number two, I'd like to say thank you to those that voted no the last time. I think you did your due diligence, you understand the statutes, and you're voting without emotion but with the law. Thank you to you. For those that voted yes the last time, I'm hoping that between that meeting and this meeting, you've had time to do a little extra due diligence, that you've studied the statute, and you understand the errors in the opinion that you received from State's Attorney Cronky based on the Kankakee lease agreement that is not the same thing. It did have public purpose stated in that lease agreement. This one does not. To Mr. Hampton, thank you for farming it. I'm sorry that it was done illegally for 33 years. It's to no disrespect of you or the job that you've done, but at some point we have to change what we're doing. Excuse me?
You just disrespected me by saying that.
Yeah,
You just
no, I
disrespected me.
I didn't hear
You
anything.
just said
What did I do? How did I
this
say
farm
that?
is illegal for 33 years.
Excuse me?
You just said he farmed it illegally for 33 years. You
Yeah.
just disrespected me. And then you turned around and said.
He was allowed to do it by the county board. I apologize if that was disrespectful, that was not my intent. It's to no fault of your own that the county boards of the past allowed you to do it illegally. I'm sorry if that was disrespectful, that wasn't my intent, okay?
Okay.
I hope those of you that voted yes the last time have done your due diligence. I hope that you will vote no this time. Table it, wait for the state Attorney General's opinion. And I also believe that this board needs to be reduced based on the research that Derek Piercy has done, and thank you for that, Derek. We have far too many board members based on the size of our county, and it costs the taxpaying citizens. I know tonight's meeting isn't going to, but the meetings and the various committees, they do, and we need some tax reduction. Thank you.
I'm back here in the back.
Marcia White, longtime taxpayer. Oh, sorry. Marcia White, long-term taxpayer, lifetime Shelbyville resident, not connected except through the kid to the poor farm. But folks, you've been starting to do legal. I'm pleading with you, do legal. Again, as the girls have said, set your emotions aside. We understand farmers don't want to give up land, and they want to get more land, but it's illegal. Let's please get on track. Thank you. Especially you eight that stood last time.
So I believe the decision you make this evening is an economic decision. The state's attorney has indicated that it's not illegal for the county to rent this ground and decided legal precedent to back up her opinion of the law. Even at this late date, with an average rent, the farm should net $30,000 or more when it's rented. It would go right into the treasury. If you don't agree to rent the farm, it will likely cost the county $10,000 to keep it clean for this summer, just as Jim Hampton was mentioning, which would be a terrible shame to let it grow up in weeds. It will impact not only the mess that it makes this year, but the next several years. And if your intention is to sell it, it'll definitely impact what it would bring when it sells. There will be time to sort out whether or not to sell the land, but there's no more time to decide whether or not to rent this ground this year. This needs to happen because the growing season is going to get away from you if you don't decide. Even if the board decides it's prudent to sell this land, it likely won't bring top dollar until this fall, because whoever purchases it is going to have to carry it without any income until the next growing season. So it gives you some time, if you rent it, to get the best dollar if you decide to sell it in the future. Please vote to rent out the county farm for the 2021 growing season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
have him give his name and what his title is and what he's from, for everybody to know. Jim?
My name is Jim Swarman, and I'm here as an independent citizen.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
I had a hand up over here in front, right here, Jeff.
We all took an oath to office here to work for the county. Our state's attorney done the same thing. She has brought us the legal due diligence that we put in the meantime, listening to her. I think she's right. She accused us of not going and following things through or not using due diligence. It was a total mistake. It's wrong. We had. We're listening to the only lawyer I see in this room. I don't know about the rest of you. I'm gonna listen to her. Because I believe she's a lot more qualified than what we are. We didn't take an oath to no representative. We didn't take an oath to no social media reporting group. We took an oath to the citizens of this county. Now vote your conscience. We owe it to them.
Mr. Chairman.
This is public body comment time, and I'm sorry, but I think we get to speak. We're not asking to be criticized or talked back to, as Mr. Switz did.
We'll pretend like we didn't hear it.
Wow, is right.
Anybody else in public body comment? Anybody is free to speak in public body comment. Board, they can speak freely as members of the public, just the same as anybody else can. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Margaret Davison. I'm a resident, a taxpayer. And you've heard me talk before. I'm learning to be responsible. So I'm nervous, so I wrote it out. And this topic is important to me because when I started coming here, I thought the goal of the new board, as well as the public, was to clean things up, to stop doing things as they've always been done, and to do them legally. I'm not a lawyer and I don't know, but I did, and I do follow the watchdog. Watchdogs, Edgar County Watchdog indicates that it's illegal because of no identifiable public purpose. And if you do vote to lease this, that it could lead to a further lawsuit that would cost the county money. And the quote out of the article I read, leasing a private entity for their own profit does not equate to a public purpose. I know I can't imagine your job, knowing the statutes and everything. And she can't know everything either. Nobody can. So that's why you guys are all spread out and have to do your own research. I'm researching. But as a taxpayer, I want you to please do things legally, ethically, and responsibly. And please stop insulting people. We're more grown up and professional, and God wouldn't like. Thank you.
I had a hand up over here. Somebody else. And back, Jeremy.
Mr. Chairman, I want to lead with a question. Has anything on the legal side of this changed since the last time this board met? Are there any updates?
Mr. Chairman, could we tell who he is?
Please identify yourself.
My name's Jeremy Williams. Most of you know me. I live in District 9, southeast of town. That good enough? I just want to know if there's been any update. Have we heard from the Attorney General? Anything?
No, if we heard from the Attorney General, I would give him the opinion out.
Okay. I just wanted to check before I start. This is an issue we've been dealing with for, well, we've heard of it about a year and a half ago and only recently just started to deal with it, but it's been on the back of everyone's mind. And I hate to make this comparison, but this is turning into the county's equivalent of Shelbyville's Chautauqua building. And I'm not saying I'm for or against, but it's kind of become an embarrassment and the county's experiencing a disservice. I think the reason some are pushing so hard and so often to lease the farm is that you're living your county board life vicariously through the farm. But this isn't a farm. It's inappropriate for government to compete against its own constituents. If you farm and your government farms, your government is competing against you, and that is completely inappropriate. Government's not a money-making, profit-generating industry, and it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't compete against other farmers and landowners, etc. If you rent this farm, the government will be inputting data into the equation that determines things like cash rent in the area. So you could be affecting your neighbor's cash rent prices. You're competing with other farmers. Are you going to tell farmers it's okay to compete against the government, or that it's okay for government to compete against them? If you're going to rent this ground to one person, then you're deciding who can and who cannot use public property. And telling someone that they can't, or deciding who can or can't use public property, is a trait of communism. I insist that you keep government out of business, because government's not a profit-generating entity. Government is only to provide necessary functions needed to provide for the needs of the people you represent. Farming doesn't fit that bill. Think of it this way. If you're worried about missing $30,000 worth of income, you can part with the land, invest the money, collect property taxes from the new owner, cut the board in half to cut your expenses down, and you'll probably be better off financially than you were before. I want the government to get out of the business of being in business. Get out of competition with local farmers. Live your county board life to serve your constituents, not through the looking glass of your own personal will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else to public body comment? Here in Bushwick.
Yeah, I'm Stu Fox. I think this ground needs to be rented. It's been cared for by the boards for 150 years. You've got a state's attorney to represent you. You guys are all here representing all of us. And you know, don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, what you are. You come in here, you work for us. Do what you're supposed to do. Do your best that you think you can for us, and leave it at that. One way or the other. Get it done. Solve it. Thank you.
Gary.
Gary Gertney, board and taxpayer. I appreciate the work that's been done. But if this is such a simple question to answer, that we could just grab an answer from a court case, why is the top attorney for the state of Illinois saying nothing? We've asked for an opinion, and the response is it may take 2 to 4 years for the Attorney General to get back with an answer. Now, if it's that simple an answer, why can't the state answer the question? I would love to see it farmed legally. I would love to see the profit come to the county legally. But in my readings, I can't find that, and I've read more reports and papers and laws than I have in my entire lifetime. And I agree that I can't see that a county renting out office space to another government entity is the same as us renting out farmland to a private individual. I would like it cleared up. I would like to go with what's going, but I'm tired of it just constantly bending rules, breaking rules. And when the law, the state itself can't answer the question, I don't think it's that easy. We can snap our finger and say, there's the answer, plain as day. I think it's more involved than that. Thank you.
Right here.
I'm Dick Clark, and I've lived in this county for 50-some years. And like you say, you haven't heard back from the Attorney General yet on the actual things. You're still waiting on it. So until you actually get their opinion, why even consider it? I think, personally, farming and things, the farm of the ground has helped the county board keep in budget and things for years. And that money, it's compared to what taxes you would get off of it if you sell it, compared to what crops you get off of it and things now, is very minimal. And it helps, to me, it helps keep the county people taxes lower because you don't have the overspending and things, and with that income and things definitely helps the revenue of the county.
Over here in Western.
I'm a taxpayer, I live in District 10. I believe, I agree with Ms. Bennett. It's ridiculous to sell your farmland, and I'm not a farmer. I agree with the number 2 man in the blue shirt there. Once it's gone, it's gone. I disagree with Earl Baker. I highly disagree with him and a few others up there. It's not immediate income to be spent tomorrow morning. It goes into investment trust and save for the future, children, grandchildren, others. And I do not believe a decision to sell it or not to sell it should be made by this board. In a year or two, half of these or more will be gone. Then when there's a problem, the new board, whoever they might be, will be saying, we didn't do that. We didn't create that property. I think it should be leased out to this gentleman back here and held for what it takes, another year, another 2, whatever it takes to get the downsizing of the board done. Then the new board can make that decision.
Hand back over here.
Mr. Chairman, Wesley Durbin, taxpayer, farmer here in Shelby County. I want to thank Mr. Hampton for farming the ground. He's done a remarkable job. And I don't think the issue of terminating him was done correctly. Most farmers are given a 4-month termination letter before the farm is terminated. Technically, his lease terminated at the end of February. So what that means is he actually has 4 months from that time period until he is terminated from that farm. So technically, till June 27th, he could be farming that farm. That's the Illinois law, as I've been told, or my opinion. Like if the state bank took a piece of ground away from me, they would give me a letter in October, I'd go on my merry way. We're lucky to have a farmer like Jim Hampton that give it up so easily like he did. If I was farming that ground, that would not happen.
Thank you. Right here.
I've got one more question. If this has to be, the farm has to be sold, what's gonna, is the airport's ground gonna have to be sold also? And county highway department ground also has to be sold? Because it's also farm, so.
Right. The airport commission has specific authorities where they can lease their land out, like in this manner. So no, those parcels would not be sold. Plus, the airport has to have, and people on the airport committee, feel free to chime in, the airport has to have surrounding properties for safety barriers and things like that, so they will have excess lands. They may not have a runway on it or whatever, so, but they have authorities that are different than ours. Anybody else would like to speak in public body? In the back?
Yes, excuse me, my name's George Hyler, and I reside in rural township, which is barely in the county, about 2 miles. I've heard a lot of, I didn't even know their county had a farm. It was called a farm. I've heard a lot of people say they wanna do what's legal, and I would second that. You need to wait for the state's attorney to come with not the state's attorney, the attorney general to come with a decision. I think it's past time that selling is an option, because it's already cost the county residents money by not leasing this thing and getting it going, or selling it whenever. Because as it was pointed out, this is a poor time of the year to try to sell a farm, and whoever picks it up, and once you lease it, it's a uphill battle for them this time of the year. So I would encourage you guys to lease the thing out and then wait for the Attorney General's office to make a decision, and then you have something to stand by. And I'm sure that, your own state's attorney, she's done research, and apparently that it is okay to go ahead and do this. I don't know, and I know you fellas have probably done a lot of reading, but that's what she's for, and if she's referred it on to the Attorney General, that's what she should have done, and I think you're not doing the right thing if you don't lease it out and get that crop growing as soon as you can. I'm a farmer, and I understand what's involved. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in public body comment?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a question if no one else does. I want to ask our state's attorney. Nicole, at this point, you're saying that it's legal to farm and make a profit on 196 acres in the county. What would be the realm of the county going out and buying more farm ground and making money on that farm ground in the future if we're saying this 196 acres is legal?
This farmland was purchased by the county in 1867. We're not going out and buying farmland.
That's not my question. I understand what it was.
I'm not giving an opinion on the authority to go out and purchase farmland for profit. What we're dealing with is farmland that's been owned by this county since 1867, and the statute that I'm citing to refers to real estate that's already owned by the county, not saying that the county has the right to go out and purchase farmland for profit or to compete with private farmers. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the property we own pursuant to the statute I cited at the last meeting is not useful to us unless we are leasing it. And under this statute, it provides authority to lease it for profit based upon the transcripts that were produced at the legislative debate. I'm not giving the opinion that you can go out and purchase farmland and compete with private farmers.
What statute is that? Can we ask what statute that is?
The statute is 55 ILCS 5/5-1049.2.
Could you say that again slower, please, so we can write it?
55 ILCS 5/1049.2. I've given it to the county board in writing, and I cited it at the last meeting.
And does that require public purpose, public use, public purpose on the land?
As I said at the last meeting, the transcript at the debate was, and the transcripts are quotes by the senators who were debating it. Quote, you said the land is being released to the government or a private individual, and the response, and then another question, is this going to a governmental agency or a private individual? And the response from one of the bill sponsors was, quote, my understanding is the language is drafted so they can lease either to a governmental agency or to private interests. that may be interested in this case in additional office space. Quote, they see this as an opportunity to gain some additional revenue.
But the key word in that sentence is private interest. And in the Kankakee lease, they had a public service. Even if it was leased by a public interest, or I'm sorry, a private interest, it still served a public purpose.
They did not submit that lease to the
So
legislature
you're
when
counting
that bill was
on, you're
passed.
counting on comments made on the floor of the legislature in Springfield, not the statute.
That's what you were trained to do in law school when the plain reading of the statute is not clear.
But
That's why I
the,
wrote
but
the
the AG's
transcript.
come down, wasn't there a case in 1975 where the AG came down about public purpose? And doesn't the statute, the actual statute itself, not conversation on the floor in Springfield, but the statute itself, if you were to read that to us right now, would it state that there has to be a public purpose?
What statute are you talking about?
The one that you just gave is 55 ILCS 5/5-1049.2.
That was passed in 1993. There is no case that has made, no court that has made a decision.
But if you were to actually
in the
read the
appellate court.
statute language to it, the statute, not discussion about it in Springfield, but the actual statute, does the statute state that there has to be a public purpose?
It does not. The statute reads, it permits leasing of real estate acquired or held by the county for any term not exceeding 99 years if the real estate is no longer necessary, appropriate, required for the use of, profitable to, or for the best interest of the county. The authority to lease pursuant to this statute must be exercised by an ordinance passed by 3/4 of the county board. It does not reference public or private use. That is why I ordered the transcript to see what was discussed at the time the bill was debated and passed.
And that was the entire statute, what you just read us in whole.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I still have the floor, I think.
No, hang on.
Public
Hang on.
purpose.
We'll get into our debate,
No, I'm still
When the motion is
I'm
made.
still asking our attorney.
and then that's when we can have dialogue.
Okay,
We're not on floor business.
okay, so.
We're in public body comment.
Could I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
Is it public record what the ground is rented out at? Per acre?
That's what it should be.
It's $175 an acre,
Right.
I believe. $200
Is
an acre? Okay.
Is public record somewhere?
Yes, recorded, or all the things.
Because one of the board members, he's not on the board anymore. I asked him that one time, he said, you don't need to know that. So I was wondering if it was public record.
Public body comment, any more public body comment?
I've got one. This is the first meeting I've been to on this subject, okay? And to me, it makes no sense not to lease that ground because you're gonna incur the expenses from it. If you don't lease it, and it's gonna cost you money and you will have no income from it. If you're waiting on somebody to get back with you and stuff, it doesn't make any sense to let it lay dormant and cost you money when you can give it to somebody to farm.
I did just have an answer for Fred, public comment. I'll be real quick, but, and if you had heard at the last meeting, but when this passes, this will be put out for bid from tomorrow till June the 10th, and on June the 10th, the bids will be open. So this will be public bid to farm it this time.
Okay, do you have to pay the taxes?
Yes, you do.
How much are the taxes?
When we get to that, she can give you those amounts, because she's gonna discuss it. I can't tell you exactly.
Okay.
But that'll be the part of the bid, that's part of the package. You'll know up front approximately how much it'll be.
Who does
The
the
tenant pays
maintenance on
the
the farm?
taxes.
Who does what?
Maintenance?
We'll discuss that when we get to it, but I just wanted to discuss the part about the bid that you've asked twice, to let you know that it would be bid this time.
It will be bid.
If it would have passed 2 weeks ago, the bid would have already been accepted by now, but yes, it will be bid this time.
Yeah, by June the 10th, you're getting awful late.
You what?
By June the 10th, you're awful late.
I totally agree. I want to do it in March, but, oh well.
Okay, my name is Jessica Fox, and I am speaking also as a tax-paying citizen. I greatly appreciate all of you taxpayers showing up today and expressing your concerns. It's nice to see passion about the farm ground, and I understand the legalities and everything else. I just want to make you all aware, the county does levy taxes for all of you. 2 years ago, this county increased the airport tax levy, not this board, but the county, increased the levy at the airport by $15,000. It impacts every single taxpayer in this county, whether you find any benefit from that airport or not. That's public property, that's, it's government property. Can I go out there as a private citizen and do what I want? Probably not, and I realize the airport's a different beast. But I would strongly encourage all of you, you are paying more taxes for the airport, which may or may not benefit any of you, than you are the ambulance service. And there are some funds set aside for ambulance, so we are trying to reduce that levy so you don't have as much of a tax burden. But I would very much strongly encourage you to get involved and see where your tax dollars are indeed going, because you may or may not have an interest in what you are being taxed for. So once again, I realize everyone's very passionate about this subject. There are people who I'm sure are very passionate about the airport. But when you start talking about taking public monies for a relatively private purpose, I just think that you all need to be aware of the money that has been spent the last 2 years on something that you probably haven't all got a large benefit from. So, and like I said, I'm very thankful that we have our airport. It's a different beast. We are fortunate enough to be farm that ground and get some revenue, and it's maintained by a reputable place. But it's the same thought process if you think about it. It's not, but it is. But once again, please take an interest in your county government, your school board, your library districts, your fire protection districts. They are all vitally important to us, but you need to know where your money's going and what it's being used for. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other public body comment?
May I ask one question?
Go ahead, I may not answer.
Marshall White again, if you want to come talk to me later. What expenses are in this lease that the county has been, as I've understood what I've read, paid taxes illegally? Let's just dismiss the legal or illegal part. Of most things I understand, if you have a lease, you have expenses. Taxes are usually a part of that expense. It's not seed, fertilizer, etc. And I can't go into etc. I don't farm. But that's my understanding. Who's paying those expenses? Is the county paying any of those expenses?
No, it's, there are expenses that the landowner is paying.
Are there expenses the county is paying?
Well, that'd be the landowner, the county. That'd be, there's a
Okay.
budget for lime and,
Fertilizer.
repairs, there could be something for the cemetery that comes out of the, very little, is there any
Know nothing about
fence
that.
painting or anything?
But maintenance of the ground that wasn't caused by the guy farming it is paid by the county. There is an allowance for limestone, only if needed. They have to prove there's a need. And there has to repair, like I said, things that are just normal repairmen. Normal repairs on the farm are paid by the county. All the seed, fertilizer, equipment, everything else to do with farming is paid by the farmer. And in this lease, the taxes for this year are paid by the farmer next year when they're due.
so all that in a nutshell, the direct cost of the crop are incurred by the farmer, and the expenses to maintain the capital is in the, like you said, the tile or whatever, the limestone fee. So those are budgeted.
Okay, point of clarification.
And that's just like any other piece of infrastructure in this county, whether it's this building, you've got maintenance, has to be done, so.
That part I understand.
No
It's
matter
just,
what, ours.
what I think I'm hearing is the money the county receives off the farm is not what we actually receive, because there are at least instances where we're paying something in addition, we're paying something else on it.
so it's not clear. Because in bookkeeping, I thought income minus expense equals net. I don't think our net is our income. Just a little heavy-set older woman comment.
I guess one thing I can mention on that, when I said the farm's been making 30 to 35,000, that's net after expenses. Because the farmer at $200 an acre paid almost $40,000 gross, then we paid expenses off of there.
And the tax.
And we're to pay the taxes off that one, but we'll still end up with over $30,000 when the expenses are paid last year. We started out at $40,000, we don't have $10,000 in expenses last year.
We're getting into debate here, let's keep
Okay.
public body comments, public body comment. And there again, I failed to remind everybody that answering questions is not required of the board or the public body, so. Anyway, any other public body comment? Hearing none, I'd like to move on to the agenda. We do have number 4 as informational vote for